First off, a quick message to all my subscribers. You guys are amazing, and you got this channel up to over 1,200 subs in no time at all. Thank you so much for sticking with me. Anyway, let's just jump right in. So it looks like the shit is going to hit the fan majorly on November 4th. Antifa is planning some major riot. I mean protest. Now, I'm not really sure if it's going to be some kind of Occupy type thing where they just sit around and hold stupid signs, or maybe a BLM type of protest where they march, block traffic, get on the freeway, block traffic, chant, block traffic, or maybe just a regular old Antifa shit show where they run around with anti-Nazi signs, pepper spray everyone, smash windows, and turn over trash cans while the cops stand down and do nothing until forced to tear gas them. Now, what I'm expecting is a bunch of idiots in black masks running amok in the streets and attacking civilians while the cops stand down. We know what to expect if we've learned anything from watching Antifa for the past 2 years. A full-page ad was run in the New York Times calling for an anti-Trump rebellion. According to an article on Pointer.org last year, the New York Times ran an article celebrating Jon Stewart, and without adding color, a full-page ad cost $150,000. Apparently, this ad was paid for by refusefascism.org, who started the Berkeley riots against Milo Yiannopoulos' speaking engagement. Also, the organization has a private Whois domain registry through Proxy Protection, LLC. And though it says it was founded as a response to the Trump-Pence victory on 12/19/16, the domain was actually registered on 11/29/16, almost a full month prior to the election results. Also, if you Google their mailing address, 305 West Broadway, number 185 in New York, it seems to be a P.O. box, and it's used by the Office of refusefascism.org, which is funded by the Alliance for Global Justice, a George Soros-owned NPO. That same address is also used by worldcan'twait.org, stoppoliceterror.org, which seems to have shifted gears from an anti-cop organization to an anti-jail organization and is pretty much dead in the water as it has no links off of the main page. Also using the same address is warcriminalswatch.org, a seemingly anti-US pro-Muslim organization. Aside from all sharing the same P.O. box, they also all seem to focus on fundraising and protesting. On a side note, all these nonprofits are based out of New York, and guess who happens to have a house in New York? I'll just tell you, George Soros. The visible head of worldcan'twait.org is Debra Sweet. She seems to be directly connected to resistfascism.org and calls herself a career activist. Debra Sweet and Sarah Flounders are known as the Red Ladies. Sarah Flounders is a member of the General Secretariat of the Marxist-Leninist World Workers' Party. Also, Debra Sweet set up a GoFundMe for refusefascism.org, and her Twitter is full of posts from refusefascism.org, which would definitely tie her and the organization to Soros. How funny is it that the GoFundMe goal is the same amount as a full-page ad in the Times? Also, they only got 29,000 out of the needed 150,000. So obviously someone ponied up the remaining 121,000. Interesting side note. In 1970, at the age of 19, Debra Sweet received an award from President Richard Nixon. Supposedly, she made a comment to his face about him killing millions of people in Vietnam, to which J. Edgar Hoover patted her on the ass and said, "That was lovely, my dear." And then I think he might have asked to borrow her dress. I'm not sure. I'll put a link to the clipping in the description. Several publications, including Newsweek, Salon, and even Time, ran articles saying that the refusefascism.org ad that was run in the New York Times was fake and had never been run at all. someone as far as to blame InfoWars host Alex Jones for faking the ad. Yeah. Then they fine-printed a retraction. Also, it seems these same anti-Trump Pence flyers have been getting passed out, at least in New York, as early as March of 2017, but probably have been around since December of 2016. A quick search on Google, the ultimate establishment search engine, and I found refusefascism.org's website, and the ad is on there as plain as day. I'll go ahead and I'll link that in the description also. So, great reporting, guys. They have a list of cities and states on there, and the list seems to be growing. Here is the list so far. Atlanta, little 5 points. Findlay Plaza, 6 p.m. Austin City Hall, 1 p.m. Boston, Parkman Bandstand, 4 p.m. Chicago, Federal Plaza, 1 p.m. Cincinnati, Piatt Park, 1 p.m. Cleveland, Public Square, 1 p.m. Falmouth, Massachusetts, Falmouth Town Green, 10:30 a.m. Honolulu, 9:30 a.m. at Ala Moana Park, and 11 a.m. at Thomas Square. Indianapolis, 11 a.m., CVS parking lot, 46th and Keystone, and 1 p.m., Interstate Fairgrounds. Los Angeles, Pershing Square at 5th and Hill, 1 p.m. Minneapolis, Burger Fountain at Loring Park, 12 p.m. New York City, 42nd and Broadway, 2 p.m. Omak, Washington, Civic League Park, 9 a.m. Philadelphia, Thomas Paine Plaza, 2 p.m. Pittsfield, Massachusetts, Park Square, 1 West Street, 1 p.m. Portland, Oregon, Jameson Square Fountain, 2 p.m. Salem, Oregon, Salem Capitol, 3 p.m. San Francisco, Union Square, 3 p.m. Seattle, City Hall, 12 p.m. Tucson at the Comic-Con, 2 p.m. And I'll go ahead and I'll post a link to all that in the description. Avoid these areas and times if at all possible. If you get stuck in one of these riots, get to the police line as fast as possible. These are permitted events and will have police in attendance. Unless you're a major badass, it's probably not a good idea to wear red that day, especially a red hat. I'm sure they will be bussing in protesters, so the crowds will be big and probably violent. And on that same day, November 4th, the Department of Defense will be doing an exercise simulating an EMP, electromagnetic pulse event. Snopes, really? Anyway, the drill is supposed to simulate failure of the electrical grid. The DOD says that the grid will not actually go down that day. From what I can tell, 2 months ago, almost to the day, North Korea supposedly threatened hitting the US with an EMP, which is the burst of radiation that emits from a nuclear weapon when detonated above the Earth. Theoretically, it would immediately fry anything electrical that wasn't in a Faraday cage. There is a debate on whether or not items turned off would be affected, but if any source of power were present, like a battery, it would most likely fry it. For years now, I have been saying that the EMP, more than the nuclear bomb itself, would undo civilization. It could pretty much knock out all electronics, phones, computers, modern cars, and most, if not all utilities, including water. Most people would probably just sit around waiting for the power to come back on. If an EMP event ever did happen, you'd better hope that you have enough food and water on hand until you can grow more food and dig a well, because what's at the grocery store won't last long, and don't be surprised in that situation if things go winner takes all. But this is just a drill, and I really hope we never experience wholesale EMP attacks. An interesting thing of note is that during 9/11, there were also military drills. There were military drills conducted by FEMA during the Las Vegas shooting and during the Sandy Hook shooting less than 20 miles away. Also, the FBI SWAT team was doing drills during the San Bernardino shooting, and that's why they had such a speedy response time. But hey, what do I know? I'm not really sure what's going on, but a lot of money is being spent on this, so be careful out there. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share if you enjoyed the video or found it interesting. As always, stay awake, stay alert, and remember, we are the new counterculture.